Welcome to the Native American Commission here on July 11th. We'll start with welcome introductions with John, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm John Strand with the Fargo City Commission.
Whitney Fear, Oglala Sioux Tribe.
And I'm Sharon Whitebear from the MHA Nation Arikara.
Lenore King, Sistan Wapatin Oyate.
Guy Fox, MHA.
Heather Keeler, Ihanktowan Nation.
Okay. And then with that, we'd like to have a prayer, and I've asked Whitney if you could do the prayer for us this morning or this afternoon.
Creator, we ask that that you guide our thoughts and our intentions so that we can do things for our community in a good way and honor our ancestors by following through with the things that they started. And we want to thank you for all the gifts that you bestow upon us and for the ability to be here today, helping to make our community a better place for everybody.
Okay, thank you, Whitney. The next is, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is carried then. The next thing, we have some presenters here. We were introduced to them at our last meeting for just a brief time, and we know the information is very useful, important, and we've asked them back to do a presentation. So could you please come up, Jeremy and Cody, introduce yourselves, and thank you for being here.
Hello. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, Cody Simpson with Share House. I'm a program aide there.
I'm Jeremy Train. I'm the residential program director for the couple of facilities, residential facilities that we have located here in Fargo. So thank you very much for inviting us back. Oh, it does? Okay, great. So I guess, give me one moment. I don't normally do PowerPoints. So basically what we're doing here today is just kind of informing you a little bit of ShareHouse and what we provide the community at large. So as far as our mission and vision and values are kind of stated there, we've been in the community Fargo since 1978. We originated as a halfway house. Throughout the period of time of our existence, we've developed to kind of hone in on substance use disorders. We do also address mental health disorders, but the vast majority of our clientele, the primary diagnosis would be a substance use disorder of some sort. And so, I lost my train of thought for a second there.
That was my fault.
No, that's...
I am also good at that, so I sympathize.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we focus on substance use disorders, and a lot of our clientele, a good portion, 80-90% of our clientele do have some sort of mental health diagnosis in addition to that, of whether it's anxiety disorder, depression, personality disorder, anything of that sort, that we do help them with. So as far as our residential facilities go, we have a couple of residential facilities. As I had mentioned earlier, it's specifically determined based off of a binary gender, male, female. So these are kind of the kind of an outline of what we provide. And so we have agreed upon expectations, or in other words, rules. We try not to use that word as little as possible, and that we truly try to believe or look at it as that when a client comes to us and comes into our doors, they are agreeing to abiding by what we set forth And beyond that, we try to individualize their treatment plan as much as possible. So there's 24/7 structured care. So we actually have staff 24/7, 365 days a year. Somebody there present and monitoring our clientele residentially, that is. Kind of talked about this already, the next bullet point, the individualization of the treatment plan. That's something that the feedback that I've received personally from our clientele as the director is that clients that have been to other facilities, not to kind of nag on any other program out there that's trying to help, but that's something that separates us from many other treatment facilities, is the individualization of it. If anybody's familiar with substance use treatment facilities, especially residential ones, usually it comes with I'm going to a 28-day program or a 30 or a 45 or some sort of specific number of days. We tried to get away from that as much as possible and look at the issues and risks that are presenting in that moment to determine where their level of care is most appropriate as real time as possible.
And the team that we have in place to help them consists of licensed addiction counselors, mental health counselors, nursing staff, and general residential care. And so we take a very holistic approach to helping people.
Yep, absolutely. If anybody's familiar with ASAM, American Society of Addiction Medicine, it's all licensed treatment facilities in the state of North Dakota operate based off of that. So we have 3.5, 3.1. Basically, it's just residential and outpatient is what that next one is saying. We do have recovery coaches available. And so it's kind of a go-between in some way between a licensed addiction counselor and a sponsor. They're a little bit of a different niche, and it's for people that might not be able to gravitate as smoothly or as easily to such as a sponsor.
And they stay in place while the client goes back into the community. They're more offered outside of normal business hours to still be in contact for recovery.
Yep, yeah, and so our recovery coaches have they have a cell phone on them, and if a client needs to get a hold of them, whether it's residential or outpatient, they can text them, they can call them to be able to kind of hook up with them. So the last one, the people in residential are expected to meet with their licensed addiction counselor and licensed social worker, case manager on a weekly basis, at least once a week. So for as far as our outpatient facility goes, attending groups, kind of processing through, and this is, I guess, kind of overlap between residential and outpatient, but attending groups, processing through kind of real-time issues, any triggers or urges that they might have, whether it's within our residential facility or the community at large. If they come to us residentially from a different community, such as, like, let's say White Earth, we try to find out what if they're planning on going back home, what are their issues and risks back home, specifically who might trigger them back home, and how are you going to cope with those triggers when you do get back home. So that's kind of explored upon in the group setting. Let's see here, gaining tools, kind of mentioned that. So our outpatient also has a DUI seminar, a 16-hour DUI seminar. This is a little dated information. It says once a month. It's actually bi-monthly, I believe, is where we've gotten to. So 2 times a month. And then also we have evaluations that happen on a regular basis. It's same day or next day evaluations. So we really stick to it that if we can't see that person the minute they walk in, at the very least, we try to within the next 24 hours to see them for an assessment. This is kind of a little bit of a breakdown as far as our residential and outpatient services and the number of people that we serve at any given time. So we have a total of 87 beds, the breakdown of the men and the women. So down at the bottom there where it says residential inpatient, what that is it's kind of, like I was saying, more of the traditional residential status. So I believe I haven't flipped through these slides in a bit, but at some point it's going to start talking about possibly that when somebody first comes into our program, they are not allowed to leave our facility residentially for the first little bit, for the first week or two that they're there. The reason as to why is because we want to make sure that we get to know them, they get to know us, but then, more specifically, is there anything in our community that might trigger a relapse if they were to go out into the Fargo-Moorhead area? And so then, once again, coming up with the tools to be able to address it appropriately. The mixed beds, that's kind of a go-between of residential and outpatient. So they're living in our residential facility. They are getting some services at our residential facility, but they're probably transitioning out to an outpatient basis strictly. And so they're getting the bulk of their services at our outpatient facility, our therapeutic services, that is. And recovery living, if anybody's familiar or heard of sober housing, that's what it is. We set ourselves aside or different than other sober housing in our community. So sober housing, how it operates is that it's kind of a 4-tier or 4-level aspect to it. And so we would be the most intensive, the 4th, of where we have all 30 of those clients attending outpatient services at our outpatient facility. We don't care necessarily what level of care they're in, but they need to be in some sort of level of care. But then also they're still getting breathalyzers, random urine analysis. They have to sign in and out. They have much more free ability to kind of come and go as they please, but we at least still track them at the very least. So there's that. And then on the other side, that's just kind of, as far as the outpatient goes, that's kind of an outline of our programming and once again, kind of how many clients we have to capacity. The expectations kind of listed there. This is by and large residential expectations. So we monitor their cell phones. They have to turn in their cell phones. They do get access to them in the evening time when they're not in programming. Otherwise, then during programming, it can become distracting, but then also to monitor their cell phones in case if there is anybody that would be a negative influence that has been in contact with them. We do have them sign a waiver allowing us to search all their property to include their cell phones. However, we do not actually search their cell phones unless if there's a reason to do so or there's suspicion. So we're not randomly doing that necessarily, as we try to kind of give them as much room as possible. As you can about imagine, no alcohol, no addictive substances on our property. We do complete room searches. Some oddities that a lot of people don't think of do come up that, so obviously alcohol, for instance, marijuana, it's, no-brainer. Some oddities that do come up as far as if anybody makes jelly, the gelatin packets. If all of a sudden we find somebody who has a gelatin packet, we confiscate it and confront them on them adulterating their urine analysis. So kind of always we need to be thinking on our feet and whatnot. Mutual support groups, so Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, also Smart Recovery, we would go as wide as if there was, I don't believe, as far as we know of, that there is any Red Road-based meetings or talking circles or anything of the sort in our community at large. If anybody does know of anything, please let us know, because we will be referring our clients there. But that would all qualify for those self-help groups. The violence is on there, obviously. I mean, as one can imagine, no violence in the building. You keep everybody safe, signing in and out. So then, as Cody kind of pointed out, we have licensed addiction counselors on all teams and all cases that we see, and that's kind of an outline of what the expectations of the licensed addiction counselors are. We also have case managers. They're all licensed social workers in the state of North Dakota. That's kind of an outline of what they do. Mental health professionals, we have 2 LPCCs on staff, and then we have a clinical psychologist as well who does testing of sorts. So learning disability, personality disorder, IQ testing, things of that nature. And then we have nursing staff in all of our facilities as well that help monitor the urine analysis, but then also help with referrals and everything to doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, things of that nature. House staff, that's specific to the residential facility. It's paraprofessional staff. A lot of times it's college students that are interested in the field. They're helping for a profession themselves. sign people in and out. They're the ones that actually observe the urine analysis. Once it happens, they count meeting slips. They basically are responsible for knowing where all the clients are 24/7 and just kind of at least keeping a bead on them. This is kind of how clients are referred to us: self-referral, family referral, probation, child protective, court ordered. The vast majority of our clients, 85% roughly, are referred to us through the legal system. Anything as far as court, PO, or CPS, Child Protective Services, also ICWA, I think that was mentioned last month when we were in here. So that's roughly 85%. Another probably 10% or so is job related or family related. An even smaller percentage, from there is kind of self-motivated, purely self-motivated, but usually it's my kidney or liver is failing and I need to quit drinking or using, otherwise I'm going to die, is kind of the way that they come. As far as funding source goes, self-pay is at the top. Sorry, I kind of chuckle at that. That should be at the very bottom. The majority of our clients come from the North Dakota SUD voucher system, which originated from the Robinson Recovery Facility Center that was late 2005, which was a grant that ShareHouse operated off of from the state of North Dakota, but then it's become, if anybody's familiar with the substance use disorder voucher system in North Dakota, which is excellent, but then also county funding through the state of Minnesota, so Rule 25s, but then also state insurance as far as PMAPs of sorts, and then private insurance, Medica, Blue Cross Blue Shield, of the different states and everything. Okay. I will say, before I get to, if anybody has any questions, that the reason, why we're here and kind of sharing our knowledge and asking for knowledge earlier, which we do appreciate once again, is that last year, 2018, 20% of the clients that we serve identified as Native Americans. And so that was actually the question that we had asked as far as how people identify. It was a choice if they wanted to disclose or not. And so that's of about 1,000 people that decided to disclose that the answer to that question. So.
And we don't have a lot of cultural connection to the Native American community right now. We want to improve on that.
Awesome.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll start with Heather. If you have any questions, please.
I do have questions.
Yay.
So I guess a couple things, when you talked about staff that you have, you didn't mention that you have a cultural advisor on staff, or do you guys work with anybody in the community? I know that that's why you're here and you just mentioned that, but what's your plans for, 20% is a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I guess, our plan is this is part of the plan as far as reaching out to the greater community and getting connected and trying to meet people basically and kind of go from there. Cody was actually just asking me, have we ever had somebody that is Native American as an addiction counselor? And the answer is yes. But unfortunately, as we were in a meeting earlier with NDSU Public Health, I told them that addiction counselors are pretty scarce, and even more scarce are people that are Native and LACs, licensed addiction counselors. So it's an awareness of ours. Our plan, is basically just networking right now and trying to go from there.
Okay, I just think that it's important to remember that there's a huge factor in cultural healing. So I know that, and I don't know if Guy is going to bring it up, but we have a sweat lodge in town that I don't know if that's something that you guys consider utilizing, because part of healing, is really connection to the culture. So it's more than just having like an addiction specialist. My other question quickly is, on one of the screens you talked about education groups. And I'm guessing you guys are an 18 above or even
yes, sorry, adult. Yeah, adult only, yes.
Do you guys do any prevention education groups for the youth to try to prevent Do you know your beds being filled by people who are?
Currently, we do not. The only thing that comes close to that is that we do go into the local high schools. I believe pretty much all of them, West Fargo, Fargo, and Moorhead. And we do speak to different classes at the high school about the issue at hand, but that's about all the further we go.
Okay, before you leave, I'd like to connect with you on, I work for the Moorhead schools, so I would love to have you guys come in and do some prevention work with my students.
Thank you.
Guy?
And we have worked with Audra at the Harm Reduction Center, and we have a sweat set up. We've got one under our belt, but we're working towards a monthly sweat.
Yep.
It just got messed up for 4th of July holiday, but we've been in dialogue trying to schedule that for either what was going to be tonight but next Thursday because of the weather.
Oh, is it good? Is it? Yay, okay.
I should send you an email right now to tell you.
Thank you.
Okay. We are rescheduled to next Thursday because it's a mud hole out there.
Sure.
And it is going to be in North Fargo. Or is it going to be on the south side?
Flying J1. Like,
Sweat Lodge, yeah. Coast Materials, Love's Truck Stop.
Okay.
South of there, 39th Street.
awesome.
You'll send that in your text.
You bet.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead,
you.
Lenore.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for being here, and it's really great that you guys are wanting to implement this with the Native people.
Sure.
How did you
Chelsea?
know? Hey guys, it's good to
I
see
give
you
everyone a
again.
chance to go.
I just wanted to let you know that I have been asking around. One of the things that when we talk to people and we reach out and we do ask people to lead sweat or people to lead talking circles, we want to make sure that the people that we're asking is somebody that's accepted in the community and that everybody can kind of approve of. And so that's something I'm still looking for specifically for Women's Sweat, somebody to lead Women's Sweat. One thing I do want to ask is do you work with Prairie St. John in any way, shape, or form?
We do refer to them and they refer to us. I mean, outside of that, I don't know.
Okay. Well, Connie Longy is actually, I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
her.
Connie and I know each other real well.
Right on. So then you do know a Native addiction counselor and specialist, and she
Yes.
does do, in her capacity at Prairie St. John, I don't know if there's a way that you can collaborate, but she would be somebody that I would recommend for leading those kind of talking circles. And then when you had asked about cultural competency within the staff and meeting with the staff, kind of as part of this whole effort and outreach, which again I applaud, I would suggest, I know Audra gets brought up a lot, but Audra's worked with the city and she's actually done some amazing training in the past for the city regarding cultural competency and what that actually means, utilizing Native individuals and Indigenous people from the community. So those are my suggestions. I, as Guy, will shoot you an email, and then I promise you we will sit down and meet now that my life isn't quite as insane. So thank you again for being here, and I will drink my Red Bull and be quiet.
Whitney?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any questions. Behavioral health is kind of my wheelhouse outside of the Native American Commission. But I do have, a suggestion that kind of came into my mind as Heather was talking, that perhaps a way to, since the professionals to work with these individuals don't exist currently, the last North Dakota Behavioral Health Planning Report indicated that pretty clearly, that Native Americans are overrepresented with substance use disorders and mental health conditions, but underrepresented in those professional occupations that treat them. That perhaps there's an opportunity when you're speaking with high school students to put it out there that minorities are needed in those occupations because they would be able to relate to those people in need in a way that other people haven't been able to, and kind of explain how an interested high school student could look into a career in licensed addiction counseling, social work, and maybe even have some materials available from NDSU or Concordia or something that it promises them some kind of hope about scholarships or student loan repayment, because for a lot of these kids, they're going to be looking at being a first generation college student. So their financial flexibility is going to be a little to none. So if you can put the nugget in their head about something, but then also make it seem like it's an actual possibility, that's good. Otherwise, thank you guys for your work in your community and also for taking the steps to try to serve the Native community a little bit more thoroughly at your organization.
Thank you, Whitney. John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy and Cody, thanks for coming in. Share House is really an important player in our community, and I'm glad to see you're kind of rebounding from us having lost traction with the Robinson House Treatment Center and state support and funding, even though I'd like to see us tip that balance further, but you're going in the right direction. A couple just general questions. One of them is, in your setting of treatment, how does it work with folks that are entering into, for example, medical assisted treatment and on opioids or methadone? And does that interfere with your treatment? Or is that a flag? I hear there are programs out there where they don't want to be seeing indicators of of methadone or opioid treatment.
Yeah,
medically.
Yeah, we do allow MAT within our facility. We do not have a prescriber on staff, but we do partner with CMS.
Medical services, yep.
Yep, and then also Family Health. I know that we've been working with them and kind of encouraging them and asking them for getting prescribers of Suboxone, which they do have several now, and they're working. I mean, we're working with them, and we do allow it in our facility. We do see some kind of blowback or kind of negative responses from time to time, unfortunately. I mean, there are the many positive stories behind MAT, but I think that, how we resolve the issues that we've experienced is by having good communication between us and the provider, and I think that our experience has been for the positive of it overall.
And how is it going for medical marijuana also?
We wouldn't allow. Yeah, I guess. I mean, we do have clients that say that they have the intention of using marijuana, whether it's medical or recreational. The thing that we kind of tell them is after treatment. So along with, if you just kind of generalize MAT to the sense of, I mean, you could think of an anxiety medication like a benzodiazepine as MAT as well, or if you have physical pain and you need an opiate prescription of hydrocodone, we would not allow those medications. By and large, there are some select circumstances that we do, but of where we wouldn't take that person in our facility. So if they were on medical marijuana, and given, I mean, where we're at geographically, we currently do not allow people who have medical marijuana cards or prescriptions to be taking that within our facility.
And I think that, so right now our nursing staff would let them know that to go back to the primary care physician and ask for an alternative to the medical marijuana for the time that they're going to be at Share House. And then whatever they do after Share House is fine. But so if it's anxiety, give them an anxiety medication instead of the medical marijuana. But that's its stance right now.
I hope we open our minds on that somewhat going forward. And I know we're just beginning. Even with medical assisted treatments and methadone, we've had some pushback from some support groups and people in the field, but the reality is we need to go there. And I know we're just beginning, but I hope we can keep on the path of getting people less harm and more help, and there are fits for those. Another question I have in general is, my sense is, and I'm very close to this is my portfolio, public health, and serving with the Blue Ribbon Commission and these activities and all these elements of especially opioid addiction treatment. My sense is that we've kind of gotten to a plateau maybe there with some successes, and we certainly can't sit on our laurels, but my gut tells me we just have a booming, exploding meth problem.
Yes.
And I don't see the sense of urgency in our community about it.
Yes.
So what do we do?
Issue.
I love that question. Boy, that is a huge question that you are saying what I've been saying for years. I I think that the flavor, the drug flavor is changing again, and that if we look at the history of the United States, the world, or whatever of addiction, that the opioid epidemic is swaying, and it is swaying to methamphetamine. I recently heard that, I can't remember if it was the FBI of Minnesota or whatever, some law enforcement in Minnesota has found exponentially increased amounts of methamphetamine busts just this first half of the year, while in the same state in Minnesota, the opioid overdoses has reduced by about 25%. Now, that might be because of awareness and naloxone and things like that and the prevention, but there is that sway. And I think that the answer to that problem is huge, and I think that it's the awareness of addiction rather than the awareness of the drug, if that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, people view methamphetamine differently than prescription abuse or heroin abuse. And I think that if we look at the early 2000s, when methamphetamine was the drug of choice for, at the very least, our region, the entire world or country, we demonized the individuals that used it, and that we were scared of them, and the answer was we need to lock them up. And then when it became opioids and people have a higher risk of dying from it, it's now all of a sudden this individual is a victim and we need to embrace this individual, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I think that just awareness, I mean, it's a general answer, but I think awareness of addiction rather than the specific drug is what we need to bring forth at large.
If you have any advice for how we as a city can address this, I'm all ears. Of coming up with an action plan, maybe regrouping and reinvigorating the Blue Ribbon Commission, more targeted on meth, not just heroin and opioids, but it's just absolutely pressing.
Yep.
In my opinion. Thank you.
I'd like to see
Thank you,
alcohol
John.
included in that as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Is it's addiction. It's not the specific, drug. It's still there, and it's still going to be there.
Create more grant opportunities and publicize them in the papers. Like, make it so that private companies actually know about the different opportunities that are going on grant-wise, because that's difficult to find as well.
You might also make your presentation at some point to the Human Relations Commission. They've had Frank Hunkler approach them and had creating a task force to start talking about the social aspects of addiction. So, and I know Frank has moved or is moving, but there might be some fit there because they were especially interested relative to human relations aspects of addiction and treatment.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Appreciate your information. And again,
Sorry we took
I
up
know
half
these
hour.
people will be getting contact with you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is presentation. Tia and Donald from the Planning Committee about the census presentation, or with the census presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'd like to introduce Donald Kress from our office. He is working with the Planning Department and is the primary contact for our census outreach.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Donald Kress from the Department of Planning and Development. We have no PowerPoint. You'll just have to enjoy the view of downtown Fargo there. As Tia mentioned, very grateful to be in front of your commission today here. We're trying, this is a citywide effort, of course, to get involvement in the U.S. Census, which would officially, the census day is April 1st, 2020. I believe you're all generally familiar with the census. What we in the Planning Department are doing is creating a complete count committee. You may be familiar with these from previous censuses, and that is the idea that the Complete Count Committee doesn't count anybody. The Complete Count Committee provides access to all areas of the community. I'll just read a brief passage here that is our sort of our standard pitch on the Complete Count Committee here. The purpose of this project is to create a committee of community representatives to develop appropriate materials and a communication plan to reach out to all in Fargo who are eligible to be counted in the 2020 census, make them aware of their eligibility, advise them of the different ways they can respond to the census. You can now be able to do this on the internet this time, new from 2010, and address any concerns they have about responding or how their response will be used. Fargo's goal is to have a 100% response rate for the 2020 census. Historically, we've had a pretty high rate, but Mayor Mahoney has said, and the Commission has backed him up, that we want to try to get a 100% response rate. The Complete Count Committee is created pursuant to a resolution approved by the City Commission on May 20th, 2019. The state of North Dakota adopted a similar resolution at the statewide level earlier in the year. The Census Bureau encourages Complete Count Committees at all levels of government and provides training and background materials and suggested outreach strategies through the local census contact person whom the Complete Count Committee will be working with. The Complete Count Committee is based on the idea that without an organized program of outreach, the response rate for the census would be less than 100% overall, and in some sectors of the community could be considerably less than 100%. Such an uneven response would undercount the population and perhaps skew the results of the census. Thus, it is in the community's best interest to have a 100% response community-wide and for the city to lead that outreach effort with community partners to achieve that goal. So that's our standard summary of the Complete Count Committee. What we are doing, we're working through some details of this project summary here, this project outline with planning staff, and shortly we will be reaching out to the community, including members of your commissioners, to become members of this Complete Count Committee. We'll have this at the City Commission yet this summer. Commissioner, we'll have that before your commission to officially appoint you for those, appoint the members of the Complete Count Committee. And again, broad spectrum here. I know many people have different concerns based on their history, culture, age, about how the census is used or how the census is taken. And we want to be able to address those as best we can. You see all the headlines, various things. And we want to make sure that people are confident that they can answer the census and respond comfortably and safely. And I believe Tia, so thank you for the opportunity to address you. I believe Tia has some more specific information now.
Hi, so I put in front of you, there's 3 handouts that you have, and that first one that's titled Census 101 is basically an explanation of the basic purposes and benefits of the count, such as funding coming into the community for programs, particularly programs for low to moderate income households. So I find like the most important thing about this census is that we all understand that population impacts funding coming into our community. It impacts many other things that you'll see on that handout, but funding is primarily one of the most important ones in that list. You'll also see that there is a handout on confidentiality. So what I've heard and read about is that most folks that do not want to participate in the census are concerned about confidentiality. So the census has prepared that document, and it will help you to educate and dispel any myths that there might be about the information not being confidential. It's important to ensure everybody that their responses are safe and secure and protected actually by Title 13. And then there is another handout that's actually specific to Native Americans and why it's important to count our populations. So it outlines characteristics of natives who are hard to count, and within those categories there are poverty, educational attainment, housing insecurity, and age. And some of these are topics, particularly educational attainment, that has come up at past commission meetings, and this is really important that you guys help us to reach out to those folks that are in those groups so that they are comfortable participating in the census, which is April 1st, 2020. I think Donald said that. And it's important that people know that if they don't respond to the census, that they're impacting funding related to education, employment, healthcare, nutrition, such as the SNAP program, and other housing programs, both urban and on tribes. So what we're really asking for is your outreach, not only with our urban Native population, but also with your respective tribes. I know I will be with the Turtle Mountain Band as best as I can. So Overall, we're asking for your help in implementing the communication plan that Donald presented by informing the people you know and informing them why it's important that they are comfortable participating in the census, and truly that it's our civic duty to be a part of that. And I know Sharon has gone to or has some information about some census training that's particular to North Dakota Native American tribes and urban populations. So I would like if you could kind of cover that for a couple of minutes or a minute.
Okay. Okay, about 3 months ago, the part of the census through the whole state appointed one of their members to seek out Native groups within the urban areas. So we have a lady named Casey Carey, and we've had a couple of meetings with our census group, and what we're now doing is trying to find groups, people that want to be in those groups, and we hope to have 2 or 3 groups right here in the city of Fargo. And we'll be hosting a meeting here in July, I believe it's 26th, over in the parking building there, but we can send out some more information on that. And right now I have 6 people signed up in the Fargo-Moorhead area, that Native people that are interested in helping do this. And one of the things our group is assigned to do is to, we're aware of the statistics on, how they're not where Natives are not counted as much, and some of the reasons why. So we're trying to answer those questions of why is it that they don't do the census, or what are they afraid of, just like anybody else. So then we're trying to put in ideas to make it easier for them, whether it's having a place where there's a bank of computers where people can come at their leisure to do it, or it's sending people to the homes, things like that, that will make them more comfortable. And again, to have that real specific information about how it doesn't count against you for many of the things that they may have. So that's kind of what we're started at right now, but we're building, we have our committee going, and the person, Casey, has also had a meeting. Each tribe within the North Dakota has sent a delegate to, they had a big meeting in Bismarck, and so that the tribes are doing kind of like this, but we're in the urban area, but they're there on the reservation and trying to boost their numbers through groups doing that. So anybody that is interested in being on the Native American group, census group, we welcome anybody, and or give us ideas of how you think we can get the word out to them, or get it more comfortable so people will come in and fill that out, or we can meet with them. But we need a group ahead of time to kind of do some legwork ahead of time. So we're trying to get those groups together for, by the end of this year, have things going. And then that way in January, we can step it up and see where we're really at before the April 1st deadline. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Okay, thank you, Sharon, I appreciate that. I also printed off extra copies of everything that I passed out so that you could start using those as tools when you're having conversations with the people that you know in your circles. I accessed the Census 101 and the 2020 Confidentiality one on the census.gov website. You should be able to find those pretty easily, and the other one, you may just have to make copies or Google search it, and that PDF should come up if you need more copies, or call me.
What I think we'll do as well with the group is we'll make sure that we either have a specific delegate, but we want to be close contact with the city, the planning, the people that working on census there. So
Yes, ma'am, we will definitely be in touch with you. Thank you for your support of this. And if you do have any questions or questions about materials, please contact me or Tia. And then we also have a census contact person who's based in Jamestown, I believe, that we work with.
Okay.
And she's an official census representative. Her name is Erin Musland. So we work with her as well.
Yeah, Erin, I know, is for the whole state, and
Yes, ma'am.
Casey comes from her committee, so
Yes, ma'am.
that's
Okay.
who that is. So, can we go ahead if we have any questions, John? Whitney,
No questions, thank you.
go ahead.
I just have
Chelsea.
a real quick question. So, in the political climate that we're in right now, and the things that are going on with the Supreme Court ruling and the additional census questions, I would like to know how to not make this a political question when I'm going out and I'm telling my brothers and sisters in my community that, hey, this is really important, this affects our funding, without discounting our Indigenous people that come from North America. And so that's one thing that I want to know is how can I go out there and tell my community this is something that's really important without it being a political issue. And if there's an email or if there's like some way to do that, like I know that's a huge question, but that's the biggest issue that I have with this upcoming census is the political nature of it.
Well, Commissioner, I'll answer, and then you can find an answer too, if that's okay, or you want to go?
Yep, no, that's
Okay,
fine.
okay. So my immediate answer is I don't have anything for you right here. As you know, there's this, as you say, this continuing situation in Washington there regarding this census, the citizenship question. One of the things that this Complete Count Committee will do is develop, as we said, a communication plan and outreach materials that will address the exact concern you're talking about. Maybe that'll get sorted out at the federal level here in the near future, so by the time we get to that communication plan, there'll be a definite answer. Tia, you probably had some more on that.
No, that was about the same. The census does have some language for covering that kind of comfort level in the issue, so I can probably find that and get it to you.
I think I would like to say something about that. I think that it's very useful this has happened because this is going to really highlight the census and maybe bring it out how it's more important that we do get our names on there and be counted. So I think that by this happening, I think that is going to bring it, more awareness and how much importance it does have for the people. So go ahead. Lenore, you have any questions?
No questions.
Guy?
Nothing, thank you.
You were talking about the committee that you're working on.
Right.
You said that's Fargo and Moorhead? Or
No,
is it
it's not
just
Minnesota, it's just Fargo.
It's just Fargo. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't care about more.
I'm happy to share any information with you.
Okay.
Okay. Is that everything? Okay. Well, thank you very much for bringing that, and we know it's really important. It may seem like it's a long way off, but actually it's going to come pretty quickly, so
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you.
And Commissioner.
Okay, then the next is the strategic planning event. I know, let's see, I think, Nicole, did you have something on that?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So yeah, in your packet, you had a memo from our department that summarizes where we're at today following the strategic planning meeting we had in May. And also in your packet is a report, hopefully you also received this by email, of our consultant, Maylin Warren's report here. And so really this is just the first phase of many more conversations, and that's what we're trying to explain in the cover memo. And one of the things we're finding helpful with some of our other boards and commissions as next steps is making this additional dialogue time in either our board meetings or like I might have mentioned at the strategic plan meeting itself that we can take certain times and close meetings here and move to the Meadowlark room if we need more time with dry erase boards and more time to facilitate broader conversations and next steps. In the report itself, we would be open for feedback, and I believe an email just went out that has a survey for you to fill out as well about just meeting logistics and other things in regards to some feedback on that, so we know for planning for future meetings as well what your preferences are. In the report itself, the last 2 pages talk about the vision statement and mission statement, and you'll see about 6 options for each. I know in both of those, we were really close to a couple really at the kind of top end there. And what I propose at the staff level here is that we bring this back to the executive committee next, here in a couple weeks, kind of work on it a little bit more. I think at the strategic plan meeting itself, I looked for maybe a volunteer. I might have voluntarily asked Anna and Guy, based on the conversation, on like kind of a new person coming in and a person that's been on the board for a long period of time. It'd be really helpful for staff as we, kind of had some brainstorming sessions just to talk about that as we capture, the history and the evolution of upcoming. So that might be a possibility as well. So really, we're all ears at this point on your recommendations on next steps. But what we're finding that in your memo, step one is when we have some more room on the agenda, having some more of those transparent discussions here at a board level, as well as having maybe some other additional meetings again in a different room setup. And then lastly, staff will also provide some sample templates for strategic plans itself. I know sometimes there are really strategic plans can be anything, and so a lot of spectrum. So as we're doing some strategic plans with some of our other boards, we can give you some of those templates, and sometimes it's easier to just hash those up as opposed to starting from scratch. And so that's what we wanted to offer as well. So with that, I'd be open to any other discussion or items that you'd want to share, or we can move this to the executive committee here in a couple weeks.
Okay. So I think we could move it to the executive committee if people want to start there. Okay. And just for, I would like to ask maybe Guy to come to that meeting with us. I've been trying to ask a member of the council every time, or commission. So I think I'm going to ask you to come there, Guy, if that's something you can do.
Yep, I'll be there.
So, okay, thank you. The next thing we have is the updates. I know we have the community picnic coming up, and there's several things that we still need to talk about with that. I know one of them is, Chelsea, did you have the lady with the pictures or something like that? Did we decide to do that or not?
Yep, there's Alyssa Allery,
Yeah,
so.
did you put in a thing for her then?
Yep, there's been an invoice. I don't know if that's something that we want to talk about maybe at the executive commission meeting, because there's an option just to have her come and do, she's a native artist here, just to do airbrush tattoos. But if we do want to have an additional person come and do caricatures as well, free of cost for our community, that would be an additional $250. We do have the inflatable and games contract is ready to go, except they have to change it from August 2nd to August 3rd. We do have, thank you, Catlin, for reserving Oak Grove Park. And we have been advertising it, even in Walmart when I was there. I saw families, and so I'm telling them any opportunity that I get, August 3rd from 11 to 4.
And then we have some flyers that we passed around, and people can pass those out. So, okay. Anything else with the picnic? John, you have anything? Okay. Lenore?
Nope, we can discuss whatever at the executive meeting.
Okay.
We have a drum group scheduled.
We did get drum group. Okay. Thank you. Heather?
I have one thing. Did we want to do hand game demonstrations at this?
Yes.
Okay, because Terry reached out to me and I didn't know that was a request, so I'll forward him over to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We can do that, and then if you get the information that we can discuss with that. And then the other event is the Pride event in August 10th. And I know we've already submitted our place. We have a table there that we're getting, and then we have the sign-up sheet here for the times from 10 o'clock till about 3 o'clock. And I see that everything's filled in there, so we'll have people that are doing that. And we can talk about if there's anything needed to take to that. So, thank you. If anybody have any questions about that? Okay. And the next thing is the Indigenous Peoples Day. I know that that's coming up soon. We've been kind of trying to talk about it, work on it, and then what Catlin did was she put together from last year, well, I actually had a meeting with Rebecca from, Rachel from the partners that we used last year, and she's going to be helping us again with organization. And so what we did was we sent out a notice to the partners that we had and some of the other people that we could think of that we're having a meeting. And remind me again, what's that date for that meeting now? It's in next month. Okay, well, you'll get a notice about it anyway, so then bring your ideas. I know it has some things there. I know we're working on maybe trying to figure out a whole different layout for it or something that we're doing. And then I do have a real renowned artist who's already agreed to do our poster and be a part of the Indigenous Peoples' Day. We get him here and he'll work his off for us. He said. So we have somebody that's very good with that. So just a lot of things that he'd be able to do to help us. So go ahead if you have questions, John.
I just wanted to mention that Heather's doing some amazing work over in Moorhead to extend Indigenous Peoples' Day over on the Moorhead side, and then we hope to expand it into West Fargo as well. Heather, I don't know if you want to give us a quick little update on what's going on there, but it's really important, and I just want to say I'm really proud of you.
Thanks. We're on the City Commission agenda for July 22nd to present the recognition of Indigenous Peoples' Day. And so my hope is that that passes and that we could maybe hold some of the events that we've had, still in partnership, but maybe if we could do something on our side of the river as well to celebrate that. Hopefully this will be our first year.
Okay, wonderful. Bring all your ideas to the meeting then.
Okay.
Okay, do you have anything? Okay, and I know I've asked you to get a drum group, so I know you're still working on that probably, right?
Drum group.
We have the drum group for this
For
one too.
one thing, and that's getting drum
Okay.
groups.
Okay, Lenore, do you have any
here.
questions right now?
No questions.
Okay, then one other thing we have right now then is on 8, the sponsorship update. And is that, go ahead, Chelsea, you can give us an update.
So the Trading at the Red River Indigenous Marketplace event was for the very first time, the very first event that we've held. I think an amazing success. We had close to 700 people walking through. That was between 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock p.m. I want to thank the City of Fargo for working with, and the commission itself for the venue payments. I want to thank the police department and the civil engineers, city engineers, for all the work that they did, for the advice that we got from some of our mentors. But in the end, what it did was it helped to motivate the reestablishment of our traditional waterways and our traditional trade routes. And we're also looking at Saturday, October 12th, hosting the event in Moorhead. We've gotten some requests for us to do that event in Moorhead, and we'd like to do it in conjunction with the new recognition of Indigenous Peoples' Day over there. So hopefully Saturday, October 12th, we'll be in Moorhead with the Trading at the Red River Indigenous Marketplace again, and we'll be back next year for sure during the entire summer. But that was the plan. The event, we had over 37 vendors. It was just a 100% amazing feeling to be in a room full of so many Indigenous entrepreneurs at every level. So thank you to everyone who was there. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Chelsea. Is anyone else? Okay, now we have public comment. And I'm not sure, we don't have anyone for public comment, so we will go on to announcements. And I know I'll start with Heather. You have something for us?
So one thing I just kind of wanted to talk about, and I can do it in a better format, I guess, moving forward, but I'm still learning the process.
Good.
So one thing that I would really like to see is when we have Native American professionals or artists come into our town to do whatever it is that their talent is, if there would be a way that we could maybe host like a welcome lunch or at least take them out to coffee or do something to like welcome them to our community, because we appreciate their talents and that they're coming and they're choosing Fargo as a venue and a space. The one that comes to mind is there's a concert next Thursday, and it's all Native American lineup of artists. And the promoter reached out to me just to see what can we do to help get our community to attend things like this. And I really like this because music can be so powerful to spread a really powerful message. It's not always just like,
It's a universal message. for
it is.
sure.
And so the artist that's coming, Defi, he has a really amazing song that's out there about water protectors and water is life, and it was one of the big things that was used. And so what I would like to suggest, and what I mentioned, is I don't mind fronting the money if there's a possibility to refund it, but if any of us wanted to get together and at least do just like a welcome late lunch, early dinner before they go and set up. I know we're not like supporting the show itself, but just kind of being that welcoming committee, or if we, down the road, if we had like artists that are coming, you know, like you're talking about somebody coming, or speakers that are coming, if that's maybe some of that hospitality piece that we could start to look at. I know that this is next Thursday already, and I don't mind doing it on my own because I feel like it's important, but I'd like it to be something that's a little bit bigger than just me.
Does anyone have any questions for Heather? Go ahead, Chelsea.
I'd be more than happy to jump in on that. I think it's really important that we do outreach and do community connection as much as possible, so I'm 100% in.
Lenore, do you have anything?
Yep, I'm in too. I think that's great. That's a great idea that we should start doing that as a commission to welcome them.
Okay. I'm going to ask Heather that you put together kind of something that you could see that we might be doing in relation to the people that are coming, because I think different artists, whether it's art or music, or we might have a little bit different things to do for them. So kind of looking into what they have for the people coming now, then you guys can decide, and then we can vote at the executive committee to pass that, or how we need to do that, and if we're putting funding into it. So
When
could
is the
you please-
executive committee meeting?
It's next Friday.
Oh, the day after, okay.
Oh, it's the day after it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then we could try to do that earlier and maybe do it through email, if we can do that, to see if we can.
Even if we can't get reimbursed for
Well,
this
and in all
time.
honesty, yeah, like I don't mind doing this. I just think that as
In the
one
future.
of those things that we do, because
Okay.
we tend to bring more outside people into our city to share their talents, and
Well, I'd still,
just a great opportunity.
excuse me, I'd still want you to just write up something that we can put in the executive committee. Then we can bring it to the whole committee to have a vote to say, we want to do this all the time.
Okay,
So
I
we
can do
can try
that.
it like that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Any other announcements? Any other announcements? And the staff report, does anyone have a staff report?
We'll keep it very short.
Yes,
Most of it's
thank
in
you.
your packet. Just want to let you know that last month you had heard from Rick Hall and Laura Youngberg, but we did set up the Indigenous Orchard and Garden Project over at the Gladys Ray Shelter. And so they're well on their way of getting that planted. If they have any leftover plants, we're finding some other public property for that. The request for qualifications is out for seeking a Native American Center FM Native Programs consultant. And that deadline is July 29th. So please, if you need that link again, just let us know. But I think we've advertised it on our Facebook page, and just, let us know, or just keep spreading the word out so we can get some good applicants. And then lastly, we have temporary storage for you. So we're doing a kind of, everybody bring their stuff, and so that we can get a collective location for, I see Lenore smiling. And so if we can get a collective location, we have a site that's in process, and so I'll maybe pass it to Catlin real quick because she knows the details.
Yeah, there's a memo detailing it right in the back of your packet, so just take a look at that. But we just ask that you get in contact with me by next Friday, the 19th, if you have any items you wish to get rid of. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Go ahead. You had another announcement, Chelsea?
Yep. So I was contacted. I'm glad you brought up Laura Youngbird. She had reached out regarding planning the Native American Festival. And so the second planning meeting is today at 4, and all commissioners are invited. I'll definitely be there at 4 o'clock. It's downtown at the Dawson Room at the Downtown Library. Again, all commissioners are invited. I don't want to go as a representative of the commission without full authority from the commission. Would that be okay if I went as a representative without making any promises?
Yes, I'd like you to go there and, bring back the information to see what we have to do. And if anyone else, like you said, would like to go, please do that. Okay? Is there any other announcements? Anyone? Okay, at this time then, the next meeting will be August 1st, 2019, and we are adjourned.